Okay, people, thank you so much. Welcome to the ordinary meeting of the Council on the Wednesday 30th of October. If we could start with the karakia.
Taruitan, ki tōna tanga a te nara, ki runga, ki tēnā o tātou, ki mahia te hurama, kihi, ki a toi te puru, toi te tanga, toi te ara, toi te reo mari, ki a tūturu, whakamawa, ki a tina, uiri tai.
Thank you. Do we have any conflicts of interest? No conflict of interest. We've got an apology from Councillor Lennox. Probably move that be. Thank you, Councillor Bay. Seconded, Councillor Johnson. All in favour?
Aye.
We have no public forum. We go straight to page 6 for the confirmation of the minutes of the council meeting held on September 18. Somebody prepared to move their true and correct record? I'll move. Seconded, Councillor Johnson. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. We now move to page 26, the traffic bylaw amendments, and Matt.
So this paper is seeking your permission to amend the consolidated bylaws, the traffic bylaw schedules, specifically to put in some mobility parking spaces, some stopping areas to improve accessibility and safety. Two of the mobility parking areas are on Masterton Street, right at the entrance to the Masterton Bowling Club. They were requested by the Masterton Bowling Club from us, and we consulted with the nearby community. We did a letter drop on McKenna Street, just letting them know that this was the plan, asking for their feedback. We received no feedback on that. It's also been a request by our contractor Green by Nature to put a mobility park outside the public toilets on Jetty Road at Castle Point. They've been doing some work out there to improve accessibility at the picnic tables and stuff, so that wheelchair users, etc. can use those more easily. So it made sense to also improve access to the toilets. And there's also proposal to put extend the no stopping zone on the intersection of Dixon Street and Norris Way. There's limited visibility there at the moment, added to by the flush median along Dixon Street, so that's just to bring it in line with the intersections around, essentially the other intersections along Dixon Street. So yeah, so essentially we're just asking for your approval to make the amendments to the bylaw, and then for the roading team to be able to go out and mark up those changes.
Thank you, Matt. I have to, first of all, just note that I am a member of the Masterton Bowling Club, but I'm not a member of the committee or anything like that, so I'm not declaring a conflict of interest. Okay, any questions for Matt? Councillor Helena.
Thanks for your report. Very clear again, thank you. Did you check out the citizens along Norris Way and Dixon Street there for any concerns?
We didn't consult with them just because it's a safety issue, and the properties there will still have parking outside their properties. That'll just be slightly lessened. It's just here to improve the accessibility by not having the cars right up against that intersection.
Any further questions? Councillor Bayer.
Thank you for your report. I support the two spaces going in, but will that be enough? It's still just putting in two spaces. How will that alleviate what is actually a problem around parking there?
So there is further work. I think the Terry and the parking team will speak to what we're doing around some of the other issues with businesses operating on public spaces. We're also going to be coming back to you as part of the consolidated bylaw review. So you'll be receiving advice. I think that's in February about proposed changes that will also assist with that. We identified this as something we could do in the short term to address the bowling club's immediate concern and help provide sort of an immediate response for them, while also considering it as part of the wider work that we're doing in the parking space over the next few months. So it won't deal with all the issues, but it will help deal with that specific issue, and it might also help drive a bit of behaviour change as well. So the parks are sort of right outside the entrance to the bowling club too. So really good access for those users.
Thank you.
Any further questions? No further questions. Somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 26. Moved Councillor Tuta, seconded Councillor Bowyer. Any discussion?
Yeah,
Yes, Councillor Bowyer.
just a general, I think that's actually outstanding service. You know, under 60 days from a letter to bring this to council. I think we just congratulate your team on getting that done quickly.
Yeah, the credit goes to the roading team and the parking team as well. They were very quick to sort of assess the proposal and come through.
Under no pressure.
Thank you. So moved Councillor Tuta, seconded Councillor Bowyer. The recommendations on page 26. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. We now move to page 36, which is the acquisition, retention and disposal of property policy. And Matt, you're up there again.
So we're seeking your endorsement of acquisition, retention and disposal of property policy. This is a new policy. It's not one we've had before. The policy was attached as attachment 1, quite a detailed document. It's sort of policy that has procedures in there as well. We're sort of seeking your endorsement of the policy. There will need to be some final formatting and spelling correction changes to go through that. The purpose of the policy is to sort of ensure our processes for buying and selling property are robust and comply with legislative frameworks and legal principles. So it's been through legal review with our in-house legal, Sonia, and it sort of outlines the criteria, principles, including the procedures and decision-making proposals. We want to bring a sort of standardisation to how we approach these things to help manage risk and also provide transparency for the council and the community. We looked across local government at the different policies to make sure that we were using best case examples, and we ended up using Waimahi District Council as a guide because they have quite a robust policy with quite a lot of supporting information, which we thought was very useful when we were doing this for the first time. It also links to our other policies, including the asset management plans and policies, significant engagement policy, infrastructure and financial strategies, LTP and annual plan. This has sort of fallen out as part of the discussions of the LTP and some of those properties that were identified as things we might want to consider potentially disposing of, passing on to the community, etc. So it's just making sure we've got a robust process. It also clearly outlines the steps for when advice will come to council as well. And the process is sort of, we do an initial assessment, come to council to seek advice on going further, and then sort of begin a formal process, and that's the same for purchases as well. And following, if council endorses the policy, there will be a report coming later this year of the initial consideration of some properties that might be considered for disposal. Being such a lengthy document, as we go through that process as well, we'll also be developing some supporting material for staff to make it easier to use, and as we go through the process. And obviously any issues that are identified, any legislative changes will need to come back and be reflected. We're proposing the initial review year term will be 3 years, just because it's the start of the policy, and then after that 3-year term we look to go to a 6-year review unless there was legislative or other changes that need to come back to council.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt? Councillor Helena and Councillor Goodwin.
Just out of interest, Matt, a lot of work gone into that. How long did that take altogether?
I haven't really tracked it. Probably in pure working hours, maybe a week of my time, just doing the desktop research and then turning it into a format that we could use and then liaising with other people across council.
Councillor Goodwin.
It is a very detailed document, and I suppose it's something that's not going to be used very often, judging on past sales and acquisitions. But were there identified risks and problems with our past operations? Because to me it seems like something, we don't do that often, and I suppose I'm saying, did we really need all this?
I think, my understanding was because we have a tranche of properties that we want to consider, and we want to make sure we're doing everything in line with legal processes and also transparency processes, so that was the reason for putting it in place. In terms of the length of the document, just because of the different issues it has to consider and all the legislative considerations, that's why it's so lengthy. Obviously, I would much prefer it if it was a much smaller, more digestible document, but that was sort of the place we ended up in. But in terms of the need, I guess it was identified as a need within council.
Councillor Johnson?
I'll wait till discussion.
Wait for discussion, thank you. Any further questions for Matt? Somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 36. Move Councillor Bowyer, seconded Councillor Johnson. Councillor Johnson?
I'm thrilled to receive this document. I think it's excellent. A lot of work's gone into it. You know, we've talked for a number of years about what do we do with the rural halls, what do we do with some of the reserves we've got, some of the houses, some of the land, and we've kind of, to my mind, gone round and round in circles. And so I'm thrilled that we've got this piece that we can now move proactively ahead, because, and the other thing, I really support the three main principles, which were, is it strategically important, is it cost effective, and does it provide value to our community and ratepayers? And also as plans evolve and change, I'm absolutely 100% sure we've got some things there that we don't need to have, and we could benefit from possibly selling them and putting them back into the MDC bank for other priorities. So well done, it's a great document.
Okay. Councillor Nelson?
Thanks, Matt. I just want to, when Councillor Helena asked about time, I expected something a lot longer than that. So congratulations on that. And I also like the way you use that best case example from another council, and I'm sure that saved you hours. So well done.
Any further discussion? Councillor Goodwin?
And just on page 49, I see the voluntary buyout offer on behalf of central government and councils, which we did do as a one-off, but we were assured we'd never look at again. I just wonder if that should be in there. Top of page 49.
Yeah, so we've added that for completeness because it is something that we have done before.
But when we did it, we were very, very clear that it was a one-off and did not set any precedents. Forgive me, seeing it here and thinking, I know what's going on.
Well, I inserted it in there because of that's something we've done before, not for a commitment otherwise, but obviously if it's something that needs to come out, it can also be considered. But it's, yeah, in there for completeness.
Still going through.
Do you want to speak? David?
The process is still going through, so it's contemporary. And it was very specific to the legislation that was put into place.
And if I can just add, when we acquire those properties, we also will be selling those properties, so the disposal policy is totally applicable.
Thank you. Any further discussion? So we have the mover, Councillor Bowyer, seconded Councillor Johnson. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. We now go to page 72, the Wairarapa Water Resilience Strategy Work Programme, and Matt's still there.
Yes, so I expect Councillor Holmes will probably want to speak to this as well. Yeah, so this is seeking agreement from Council for an implementation work programme for 2024-2025 for the Water Resilience Strategy. It builds on the Water Resilience Strategy that was finalised in 2021. It's been developed by the governance group, and those who sit at the governance group include iwi councils, both the district council and the regional council, and also with input from organisations like MB as well. Where possible, the work programme is drawing on existing work streams in the water resilience space, so trying not to reinvent the wheel or create additional work streams, but actually trying to tie them together against the community across the work that councils and other organisations are doing. So we're looking for council sort of approved the implementation work program. Sort of got 5 key work streams. So there's natural attenuation, there's consideration of water capture, allocation of water, adaptation, and also water use efficiency. So we're involved in those work streams in different ways with different staff from council, and we also have David, who was elected yesterday as the chair. We're no longer an interim governance group, it is now a governance group for the water resilience strategy.
Thank you very much, Matt. Any questions from Matt? Councillor Johnson?
Yeah, thanks, Matt. I noticed that there's a budget of 150k spread amongst the stakeholders, and also I was encouraged to see that when implementation ideas come back, then that'll be reconsidered as to who pays for what and what gets done. My question is, when is the first meeting of the group, and also with David being the chair, there'll still need to be another MBC appointment?
So we had the first meeting we had a meeting yesterday. In terms of the MDC appointments process, I'm not across that, but someone else might be able to advise on that. Sorry, Karen.
That's okay. No, council made the appointment some months ago for the interim. The terms of reference, I understand from that they were endorsed by the group yesterday, but they will be coming to council for approval, and that will be at the December meeting. I'm not sure, I can't remember off the top of my head if there is another provision for representation, but Councillor Holmes will be reporting back to council through the report back process at the end of the agenda.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson.
I'm just unsure about the process for this. Where does this sit in our decision-making process as an independent council? Is this just a guiding document for us to follow?
In terms of the work program, it sort of sets a direction for those who are going to be working on that, and then that'll be reported back through that.
Yep.
And then also signals that these might be the areas that council there might be some further requests. Obviously, it's council's independent decision making as to whether they want to fund those things, etc. So it's sort of a guiding document for the work. It doesn't bind council to funding any of the work. That is a further decision making process that council will take.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Councillor Helena?
Probably not be for you, Matt, but I'm just sort of wondering what's the overlap here with the new local water done well model, and how will that tie together? Has there been thoughts on that and how that will play out?
Answer that. So there is recognition that there are other external pieces of work happening outside of this resilience program. And I think before any significant projects proceed, say for example storage, then consideration will be given to local water done well. So as Matt says, at the moment they're just very high level, smaller projects trying to lead us all into thinking about long-term resilience storage, those sorts of things. But once the entity is set up and there is more clarity around what the entity is responsible for, those discussions will be had.
Any further questions? Somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 72?
Gary, I'm happy to move it.
I could get you to talk in the first part of discussion, David. Somebody prepared to move the recommendations? Move Councillor Vaya, seconded. Councillor Helena. Okay, open for discussion. David?
Thank you very much. Maz was there yesterday, plus we were well represented by Robin and Joe and Councillor Tudor. It was a really good session yesterday, and there's a chart being drawn up here by the iwi, and one of the most important things that happened yesterday was we had not a lecture, but a conversation about the Wairapa Moana Statutory Board, which was fascinating. It was really interesting, and I can't stress enough how important the Water Resilience Group and the councils and the Moana Statutory Board, or the board, are going to be involved with this. So one of the things that just came up yesterday was about water meters, and water efficiency. And that was just talked about in very broad line, but we're in the process of doing water meters. So that certainly comes under efficiency, which is a part of the resilience program. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes, and thank you for the work you've done on this, David. It's been any further discussion? No further discussion, then we will move the recommendations. We move the recommendations. Second, all in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. We go to meeting to page 110, the meeting schedule for 2025, and amendment to 2024 schedule. Karen, is it?
It is. Thank you. So a simple procedural report asking you to endorse the schedule for next year's meetings and adding in that important 13th of November meeting where we, fingers crossed, hope to have the annual report to sign off, as well as our local water done well work. So this is for your approval.
Any questions for Karen? No questions. Somebody prepared to move the recommendations? Thank you. Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Holmes. All in favour? Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Helena.
Yeah, in my mind anyway, there's still uncertainty around the nature of that meeting on the 13th, and so could we have some clarity on the 13th of November?
Not in this item. Is simply to endorse the addition of that meeting, and we can talk further after the meeting around what that is. But we do intend to report to the 13th with the local water done well, and that agenda and the information will be released as in the usual way.
Councillor Holmes.
I'd just like to say that we did say the 30th. The longer we postpone this, the chances are that we'll be encumbered under the City Council, the whole region, and we'll end up being a part of the $16 million research that's going to be done on the whole process. So I think we need to address this very quickly, otherwise we'll just be popped in under that. And I don't know what Karen and Kim think of that, but I think that's something we need to really be
I think that's the discussion we're going to have at the end.
Okay.
Yeah. Thank you. Do that? Councillor Nelson.
Sorry, just a question I should have asked before. On the meeting days, is there flexibility of the time of the meetings? So we usually start at 9:30. Can we have days when they start at 3:30? Just around individual council circumstances? Or are they always set at 9:30?
We change them to 9:30.
Yeah, normally they were 9:30 to make sure that we had all the staff available to be able to support that too. If that was to be changed, that can be considered. It was more to, I suppose, free up the day so elected members also weren't waiting around all day for the meeting to start. Some councillors travel here for that, or iwi reps, so it was more around convenience of 9:30, but certainly if there's an appetite to change that, we're more than happy to accommodate.
I'm just thinking about in extraordinary circumstances for the one-off.
Extraordinary can happen at any time on any day.
We just need to amend the public notice, that's all, but that's something we can do.
Thanks, Councillor Nelson. Okay, the recommendations are on page 110. Somebody prepared to move. Move Councillor Holmes, second Councillor Bowyer. Any discussion? All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Page 115, the update to membership Chief Executive Performance Review Committee. And Karen.
Another simple procedural report, making some amendments to the membership and the terms of reference there to that committee. I'm happy to take any questions.
Any questions? Somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 115? Move Councillor Good. You've got a question, Councillor Lynn?
Well, maybe it needs to be moved first. And then
Pardon?
I'm not sure whether I need to speak now or later, but my question is, I'm wondering why the decision has been made to increase the membership of that committee to full.
It hasn't really. I'm an ex officio of all committees of council.
But isn't that part of the recommendation, or part of that it moves from a 3 to a 4? And I'm just wondering the reasoning behind that. I understand why you stood down. You felt there was a conflict of interest with you and Kim. You had a close relationship, and I accept that. But I'm now wondering why the constitution, or whatever it's called for this committee, is moving from 3 to 4, and the mayor will be coming back on board.
I think I can answer that simply by saying that the mayor is actually ex officio of every committee, Tom. I can actually go to any committee meeting.
So therefore, that's my question. So why then does it need to be changed to a 4-member membership committee?
Oh, I see. Thank you. I see what you mean.
So my understanding from discussions was around the leaderships under the Local Government Act. The mayor has particular responsibility in terms of the leadership of the council, and it was felt that should be recognised through, obviously a council only has one employee, and that's the chief executive, and so that membership, that leadership should continue through, and that was the reason for proposing that the deputy mayor, as also in that leadership role, should be involved in that committee.
I'm not sure if that answers the question though. If the mayor sits on that committee, or any committee, automatically, why does the committee grow from a 3 to a 4?
Through the appointment of the deputy mayor. So I'm perhaps not understanding the question.
Well, my understanding that previously the mayor stood down from the committee and put the deputy mayor in there because of a conflict of interest.
We've never done that officially though, Tom. That was the point. It was actually my fault because we never actually did that through a meeting procedure, and we never actually appointed you as chair, and that's why we wanted to get this right. But
I think this is just formalising that.
We're just formalising it.
So it officially needs to be 4 members on this group, is my question.
3 plus. It's 3 plus the mayor.
I see what you're saying, whether I'm there anyway. I can go anyway. Does it really matter?
Unless there's something in the Act on it, I don't believe that it matters. But
Recognising that the mayor is a member,
Yeah,
so
okay.
that's just the total number of members on that
No, good
committee
point.
with the appointment of the deputy mayor. Just making it clear.
Yeah, no, that's okay. And then I guess my second question is that conflict now null and void that you shared with me when you brought?
That was the conflict that I shared with you was to be chair, not to be on member of the committee. Sorry, I felt that it's better, and other councils are doing the same thing. I just find it better if the mayor is not the chair of the committee. Yeah.
So in terms of being chair of the committee, I'm happy to, if it's this council's decision to. If you choose not to be, I won't be offended. I can do without the extra work, but happy to do it.
The reason you've been nominated as chair, Tom, is that you have, and I mean this seriously, you've done a really good job on that committee, and we're really happy to have you as chair. Okay, the recommendations are on page 115. Somebody prepared to move? I'll move. Councillor Holmes, second, Councillor Barry. Oh, sorry, do you have a question?
Yeah, look, what is the conflict between you and
Oh, the feeling is that amongst most councils is that the mayor and CE, we meet every day, and so you get very close, and sometimes because you're close in a relationship, you might miss things, and it's just easier for a chair to be.
No. Normally what would happen is you would have the deputy mayor as the chair of the chief executive review committee, and then you would have a number of councillors and the mayor. So, but the mayor has said Councillor Helena's doing a fine job. Let's have Councillor Helena remain in that role, and I suppose also because I do see the mayor every single day and have a chat every single day, it's nice to have a bit of distance there also, because
that's good. I wish you well.
Thanks.
Both of you.
Okay, the recommendations have been moved to second, page 115. All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you. Thank you, Tom. Yeah, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I just want to say that I support this recommendation, particularly with reference to Tom as the chair. Tom, I just think you've done an excellent job with this, and I thank you for all the work that you've done.
Thank you. Okay, we move now to page 117, which is the NZTA funding for road improvement, renewals and maintenance. And Kane, thank you.
Councillors, bringing this report to you today to inform you of further funding decisions from NZTA and also to seek approval for reallocations of some local funds for road improvement. To summarise a few key points within the report. Firstly, funding. NZTA have not provided us funding for low-risk, low-cost improvement work. However, they have provided 3 million ground resilience funding, which has been allocated to Masterton Road as a project to help with resilience and city wet areas. Reallocation of funds. Due to the absence of subsidised funding for improvements, we recommend reallocating the share of local funding originally set aside for improvements to the core road renewal program to help reduce the forecasted shortfalls in those high-risk areas. The funding will help us repair damage to our deteriorating network and help fund some of the maintenance shortfalls we've got. This move will help also support targets in our rehabilitation program, which is 1%, and our resurfacing program, which is 5 to 7% of the network. Masterton Road, our initial request was for $7.6 million. That funding has been partially met through this ground resilience fund of $3 million to help address the resilience improvements. We will present a detailed option paper to you to further discuss the options and work packages, hopefully by the end of this year. Future improvements to still keep, I suppose, the ball rolling. We recommend some funds go towards an unsubsidised project of a safety improvement investigation of the Queen and Dixon Street intersection, which has been a suggestion from the community to look into it. Financial and strategic alignment. No additional funding is required for year 1. However, further adjustments in year 2 and 3 will be done through the new planning process. Next steps, reallocate funds to road renewal budgets and finalise resilience work packages for Masterton Road, initiate investigations for the Queen and Dixon Street intersection.
Okay, any questions for Kane? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, hi Kane. Thanks for your very detailed report and your suggestions on how to manage the money or less money. Can you just clarify? This is to do with Masterton. In year 3, that $4.5 million. Is that the intention that would be borrowed and ratepayer funded?
So at present we have $3 million, and that can be spent any time from now to the year 2027. So those funds that are in RTP are loan funded. So that some of that loan fund will help the subsidised component of $3 million.
Yeah, sure. Okay, thanks.
Councillor Melton.
Thanks, Kane. Page 120, we recommend engaging external professional support to coordinate the strategic response. What's the extent of that external support?
So we've had quite a lot of help in the business case for Masterton from Stantec, so they're quite familiar with it. So we have produced packages of critical works that we could possibly use that $3 million against. What I'm suggesting is they're quite familiar with it. They'd be a good consultant to help with that work, but also for the adaptation planning work that we're doing as well. And the team here might need some more external help to address that and get across that. Thank you.
Councillor Helena and then Councillor Bayer.
Kane, am I right in thinking in terms of what we were sort of requesting and sort of planning on, we're about about 10 million short?
For Masterton?
Well, for low cost, low risk and Masterton,
So for the improvement program, it's basically on pause now. So those improvement works are not happening. Although Kiwi Rail have said that they're going to fund all the improvements on the rail crossing, so that's not required in that area. In terms of Masterton, we're a lot short on the program of works. So I think we're about $40 million if we were going to do it over 9-10 years. So that's why the adaptation work needs to happen in parallel, and we need to work through how we...
So the plan for 12 months is to utilise that $3 million?
Over the next 2.5 years. So we we've got till 2027 to utilise that funding.
And the additional borrowing we will need for
So
the
that's
next 2
funded.
or 3 years?
So that's funded at 78% funding assistance rate, so we will need to make
660.
660 is the local share.
And at this stage, we can do service to that road by limiting our loan funding to 600,000. Is that what we're saying?
We will be limiting our loan funding in the next 3 years for Masterton to $660,000.
Until such time as a strategy for multi-corners.
That's right, yeah.
will work through.
The strategy program, I think, is working towards 2025 or later in 2025.
Yeah, we are going to report to the December meeting on that. We still need to do a bit more work. There is a possibility, we had indicated further loan funding in the LTP in the outer years, so there may be a possibility to utilise that, but that will be all part of that report in December.
And I guess my last question, those low-cost, low-risk improvements, at what point do they become a risk, time-wise?
That's the category or the naming that NZT have given that work category, so it doesn't necessarily mean they're a risk, it's just that they're a program of works where we basically improve a safety or a bridge or freight to improve its structure. They're projects that would help improve the network in terms of safety and capacity.
But if we don't do anything, it'll be no worse than what it is currently. Is that what you're saying?
If the network doesn't improve, it just stands still.
Including the bridge work?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, so they go on hold.
Thanks for clarifying that.
Thanks, Councillor Lena. Councillor Bowyer?
2 questions. Kane, thank you for that. This funding that you're looking for, will any of this be possibly targeted towards a small improvement on Paxbear Road? And I'm talking below the airstrip to make that more accessible for possible failure in the future.
It's not an area we identified in the business case. We looked at Matakona Road because it was a coastal issue. The network there is a paper road, so it's not on our maintenance. We do maintenance on there by request, and to just keep that as an option in case the network falls over. I guess the short answer is no, it's not identified in the business case at the moment, and there would be higher critical points along Matakona Road that would spend the maintenance.
And my second question is, investigate safety improvements at Queen and Dixon Street. Now I know the Automobile Association has brought this up as a risk. That investigation will see if there's been any serious deaths or injuries, and then use that to quantify any improvements if they even actually are needed. Yeah.
So we've started looking at, we've put a camera up there, actually we've started looking at movements there at the moment, so the investigation will probably look at what's been happening there through that footage and just investigate the critical movements that are really the problem movements, and then look at options to maybe address those.
Any further questions? No further questions. Somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 1? Oh, sorry, Councillor Goodwin.
Yeah, just, I mean, it's quite a sobering report. I get the feeling you guys are under a lot of pressure trying to deliver, and, you know, if some of our costs increase in this area, it's going to cause a major problem. You must be feeling quite it's quite a nervous position to be in, I would imagine.
But I guess I take the view of you can do what you can do, and you just need to share that with the rest of the team and yourself to understand the issues, and we'll look to do our best and achieve what we can within our funding constraints.
Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Kane. On page 119, you've got a footnote there about Judds Road level crossing in Kiwi Rail. You contacted Kiwi Rail and we requested an indication of when the funding deadline is for Judds Road, and they've come back with a tentative July 2025, which is still quite some time away. I just wondered, Council will need to make a decision on what we do there, and we still haven't heard back from central government on a funding application for the 4.8. So when do you think it would be appropriate for us to table that discussion and for council to make a final decision on where to from here?
I don't want to speak too much out of turn without talking to Hero, but I would think early next year, because they would need to still finalise detailed plans and have contractors aware of what they need to do at that reception before July as well.
So we would need a decision from central government, say by February?
I would hope so, yeah. That would be my opinion.
Okay, thank you.
Further questions for Kate? The recommendations on page 117, somebody prepared to move? Move Councillor Holmes, seconded Councillor Bowyer. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Holmes.
Thank you, Kane. Masterton is a major concern to us all, and the Paxbury Road, may be a paper road at this stage, but I think it's an option for later on. It's long term. One of my concerns is the cost of everything, and I've mentioned it before. The cost of the metal is just out of control, and I'm delighted to say, and you know as well as I do, that the Tanui quarry is open now, and open for business. And I know Greater Wellington have been bringing rock from Taranaki, which is outrageous, but I would still like to see pressure put on Greater Wellington about getting more metal out of the rivers where it's accumulating. So I just want to mention that here. I think we need to, and it'll keep the cost of, it's only a part of the equation, but you've got to look at costs, and we're going to see it later on in pink papers. The costs are bloody out of control, to be quite honest. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? No further discussion. Move Councillor Holmes. Move Councillor Holmes, second Councillor Bowyer. The recommendations on page 117. All in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Kane. Page 123, the Dog Policy and Practices Report, 2023-24. It's got Colin here, but is it Terry or?
Thank you, Worship. Terry will take this report.
Morning, so this is an information report. It's required under section 10A of the Dog Control Act. It just reports our operations for the previous year, the 23-24 registration year. So we've had more dogs registered than the previous year, but we strongly suspect that there's probably more out there that still need to become compliant. We've had a reduced number of dog attacks on people, which is pleasing, but we have had an increase in dogs attacking other dogs, unfortunately. A lot of these attacks could be avoided if owners took the time to, with the training of their dogs, their socialising, and making sure that they actually had excellent control over their dogs, particularly when they're off leash. No matter where they are, they need to be able to force control the back, which is something that we really encourage our dog owners to do. And saying that though, most of our dog owners are fantastic. Most people are really well engaged with their responsibilities. Impounding, we've had fewer impounds, so that's good. But we're still finding, people are trying to surrender their dogs and not collect them, which is putting a strain on resources, not only us but our rehoming agencies that we work with as well.
Right, that's Terry. Any questions for Terry? I've got just one, Terry, is you're talking about, the problem with dog attacks on other dogs. Are these out in the open at walking places, or are these a lot of them are dogs bounding out of properties onto dogs that are walking past?
So we did a bit of a look at the numbers, and it's quite mixed. It is actually dogs coming out of properties. Yeah, so making sure that people have got their properties secure, particularly when they're not supervising their dog, is really important.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just that personally the complaints that I receive are generally to do with that. They're generally to do with dogs running loose and just around the properties, and they jump their fences when they see another dog. And that's obviously for you guys a tricky one to monitor.
Yes, it is difficult to monitor. There are also options, though, with investigations about directions for fencing, and sometimes those directions might be that the dog needs to be further fenced or secured further back from the boundary of the property.
Thank you. Any further questions for Terry? Councillor Lennon?
Thanks, Terry. Just a couple of questions. One for you and probably one for council in general, really. But on page 129, your request for service, are they services that we actually provide? So when there's a dog attack on stock or poultry, whether we catch the dog, we go out. That means we've gone out and investigated that.
Yes.
And so when a dog dies, I see there's 12 dead dogs there, or deceased dogs. Have you got a role?
Unfortunately, that may be where a dog has died, where it's been at large, and we've had to go and collect that dog that's
Just
deceased.
died on the street or something like that. And I guess my other question for council is, it seems to me, it's a big chunk of our staffing, a big chunk of cost for the community in terms of the new dog home. But it seems to be a limited number of non-compliers that all this money is directed towards. And so I'd be very keen to see a review of our principles, our policy around how we manage poor behaviour by I'm assuming, Terry, it's a smaller number of dog owners that all of this resource is going into. And so, yeah, I'd be really keen for us to go back to basics and explore how we might do things differently. So the behaviour of some is not such a huge cost to the rest of our community.
Thank you, Councillor. I will add to that. So you put it perfectly, really. It's a lot of blame goes on the dogs from people, but in actual fact, the dog owners. So they are a lot of the problem, and a lot through education and not having their dogs under control. It's actually the dogs are the characters of their owners. And that's, so, yeah, you make a good point. Any further discussion? The recommendation is there to receive and adopt the report. Somebody prepared to move? Councillor Lena, seconded Councillor Goodwin. Any discussion? All in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against. Carried. Thank you so much, Terry. Okay, we go to page 129, which is the Masterton District Licence for the 2023-24 annual report. Corin, you're up for that one.
Morning, Your Worship, Councillors. Yes, so similar to Terry's report, this is the annual report relating to the District Licensing Committee. So this is provided through to ALA, which is the Alcohol Regulatory and Licensing Authority. So you'll note in the report there's only been one hearing in the past 12 months, so which has been pretty consistent over previous years. Main big change in the space over the last 12 months, of course, has been the fact that we held a process and actually appointed a new commissioner chair and members to the committee. Of course, Councillor Bowyer is the deputy chair of our licensing committee. I'll take questions.
Thank you very much. Any questions for Corin? No questions. So somebody prepared to move the recommendations on page 129. Move Councillor Bowyer, seconded Councillor Tutor. Councillor Bowyer, do you want to say anything at all?
Well, I'm really prepared to say. No, I think there are some changes going through at the moment as far as district licensing, and I think all three councils have been quite proactive in making sure we're up to date with the required legislation going forward. We've got great people coming on board into the committees who bring a wealth of experience and talent to the team, so I think this is a great move going forward. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Any further discussion? Okay, now I've welcomed the been moved that we receive the report. All those in favour, play aye.
Aye.
Against? Carried. Thank you very much. Page 152, the community activity report. Sam,
No.
is that Con?
You jumped at me.
Oh, I missed that one.
It's the important one.
That's the important one. 135. Oh, the strategy, policy and governance activity report. Karen.
Thank you, and I have the various representatives from the teams to take us through the highlights of the report.
Kia ora. So just to start off our report from our team, just noted in there that we have a couple of projects that are just initiating at the moment. The first of those is the customer management strategy that we have noted, and this will be part of the full part of our working spatial plan, which we've also noted there is in that sort of initiation space. We're hoping to do some consultation with the community early next year to help shape that plan and to sort of help feed into the strategic direction for that. We're also continuing work with the stormwater and wastewater strategy, which is actually being led by Mrs. Steve. They're providing support to that. A couple of pages in, I'll just talk to these points around the off funding projects as well. So point 29 in our report, Eco Corridors Biodiversity Project. That's one of the projects we've been working with both Ranitane and Kahungunu Kiwararapa. So we had planting actually start yesterday, which is really exciting milestone for that project. We also have work underway working with both iwi on the Mataronga Māori lens to apply to assessing the biodiversity stream in the Eco Corridors. Point 30 just refers to the Mana Whenua Climate Change Project. There's an attachment to here that just outlines that we are working with both iwi, that there's progress being made on that report, on that project. There's a range of work streams. The immediate highlight is a conference that's been planned at the end of November, where iwi will share perspectives on climate change from a geological perspective, and that will help shape a climate change action plan long term that will lead through for both iwi. It will also be really informative and useful for us for the work that we have on the work program that's coming up. Happy to take questions on that part of the report.
Questions right to Councillor Goodwin?
Just bit that caught my eye is point 31, back to basics. And it sounds like the legislation is anticipated to be happening this year, later, so not a lot of time left. And I just wonder if you can, not necessarily now, but I tried to go to that link, but I didn't discover anything. And I think it's going to be quite important, you know, if it's going to change the way we operate as local government, and if we get back to basics. And I'm just hoping that we can get as much information and be kept as up to date as possible on that, because it sounds like it's reasonably imminent.
Yeah, we will definitely monitor that, and we'll check with the link if that's not working. Steph will try to talk to that when she gets to her points.
Perhaps if we could go through all the presentations and then we can take questions at the end.
So I'll hand over to Josie for the corporate planning campaign. So two main points today. In terms of the open space, Water New Zealand is currently on site for the meetings that we audit. There was a bit of delay with resourcing, but we are on track and the annual report is scheduled to adopt in 2 weeks' time on the 13th of November. In terms of the planning space, we have a workshop planned with councillors for the 20th of November to do high-level prioritisation. There will be a couple more workshops for elected members following that in December and January. And we are planning on doing public consultation for the annual plan 25-26 for late March with public hearings in May.
this month. The biggest thing happening in that space though is obviously the OCR rate cuts, and we're expecting another announcement on OCR rate cuts in November, and then the next decision isn't until February, so there's a bit of speculation about what might happen with the November decision, whether they go a bit harder because of that delay to the next decision. I've sort of split the commentary that I've seen so far, whether they'll go for another 50 basis points or 75 basis points, and that obviously has flow-on effects to people when they come to refix their mortgage, etc. For the Panama vacant land in Panama, we are awaiting some questions come through from Te Whatuora before we can hopefully bring a report to Council on that in December, just confirming that we're going to proceed with the sale or lease process. In terms of dark skies, we held an event at the library earlier this month, ably supported by Tiff and Charlotte and her team. We had 10 people there. Charlotte from the Dark Skies Association presented. Really good engagement. I've had some follow-up contact on that, and I also had a really positive meeting with Star Safari, who is sort of the premium dark sky business in the region, and they're really keen to get in behind Masterton's application and also to support businesses in Masterton that are keen on the dark skies. So I'm just working with them on that. And then on the speed limit rule changes. So obviously there was the announcement from the Minister that the speed limit rules changes were coming through, and that speed limit changes were going to be reversed. Initial assessment for Masterton suggests that the reversals will apply to the speed limits outside schools, and they would all be going to variable speed limits. At this stage, our understanding is the speed limit changes that happened a couple of years earlier, where the speed limits were reduced in the CBD, in Kurupuni and Lansdowne, in those shopping areas. Our understanding is the rule changes don't apply to that. We're just awaiting further information on that, and we'll be bringing advice next year to Council on the speed limits that we need to change, and then what the timeline will be for those changes.
Thank you, Matt. And Kylie.
Hello, so just a couple of environment updates. For your information, I've included a couple of brief international stories about how climate change is affecting people in different ways around the world. I tried to choose interesting ones, it's just for your awareness. Secondly, there's some information on the Climate Adaptation Inquiry. So the inquiry has suggested that the government put together a climate adaptation framework to address the who pays question. And finally, the Wairarapa Healthy Homes report for 2023-24 has been released and is attached. So 38 homes in Masterton were subsidised for the retrofitting of insulation. And the value of the work was $142,000, and council contributed $10,000.
Thank you, Kylie. Oh, Steph.
I'm just going to speak to the policy section of the report and the national legislation changes that Councillor Goodwin mentioned around back basics is included as part of that. At this stage, we've only had preliminary information around what those changes might involve. At the moment, we're sort of centered around 4 key aspects in terms of decision-making, systems and processes, funding and financial and transparency, and accountability. We recognise that's quite broad, and I expect it may come in a tranche and series of bills, potentially, some being more complex than others, but we will continue to monitor this and make sure that we're informed as more information becomes available. At this stage, it has been signalled with a refocusing of the purpose provisions in the Local Government Act, and looking at some performance benchmarks and expenditure limits around non-core activities, but there's some preliminary information available at this stage as far as I'm aware. In terms of what we're working on as a team at the moment, we are progressing the Wairarapa local alcohol policy. So consultation closed on that recently. We received 33 submissions, and hearings were held by the Wairarapa policy working group last week, where 4 people came to speak in support of their submission, and we're just preparing deliberations which will be held by the Wairarapa policy working group next week, with the intention to bring a policy to council to consider for finalisation in the December meeting. We've also kicked off a new initiations stages of a couple of reviews that are legally required, being the dangerous and sanitary buildings policy review and the dog policy and bylaw review. So we're looking at some background research and engagement at this stage. We'll be looking to draft policies for council to consider early next year, looking to consult alongside the annual plan next year. So there's all my comments. Thank you.
Okay, any questions now for any of those reports? Councillor Tutor.
My question is for Tanya.
Tanya?
You said that you're going to, the coastal management strategy, you said you're going to consult with the community or the public. Well, when will we begin consulting on the Masterton Road? Because to me, what Councillor Holmes and Councillor Boyer brought up was that, maybe we need to look at the Spurs Road as an alternative, because even though we get money, is it money well spent? Because all it takes is another cyclone, and it's a 3 million or whatever, however many million, it will be wasted. Whereas that 3 million can be put towards a more permanent road. So, will you be consulting on Masterton Road?
The coastal management strategy is just in its initiation stage at the moment, so what we will do as part of that strategy is to assess and gather all the information around what we know and what we understand about what's happening at the coast. And then as we progress through that strategy, we will undertake consultation and consider what that means for all our coastal assets as we work through that. So, the consultation planning initially next year is for the spatial plan, but there's a lot of overlap with these projects because they're all quite complex pieces of work.
Thank you, Councillor Tudor. Any further questions? Councillor Nelson and Councillor Helena.
With the on page 136, the annual plan process, I see that time frame of key dates. Does that time frame give us sufficient time to not feel pressured, to not feel like we're doing too much at once to get through it? Is that plan in place? Is that been, have all those steps in there being carefully considered in terms of feeling like you've not got undue pressure on your team?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we have a process of continuous improvement. Looking back over previous year, the LTP was a little bit different because obviously it was a 10-year plan. We're hoping that the annual plan this time around shouldn't be too different, but we are going to have that high looking at Councillor Goodwin, because he has suggested that prioritisation meeting to be earlier on in the process, because what we've traditionally done is worked through the budgets that we identify that in interest in inflation on top of ordinary budgets, what we need to do as part of our annual our AMPs. And then we work up the budget, and then we come back to the council and say this is the kind of starter for 10, and then we work from there. And what I think council had indicated last time is actually let's have a prioritisation session a little bit earlier on in the piece, so officers can go away and respond to that. So that's why we've changed that a little bit this time around, but the rest of it naturally flows backwards from when we need to actually adopt the plan, and we know how long it takes to go through the hearings and deliberations, but trying to building more time and more direction at the front end of the process this time around. Does that answer your question?
Thank you.
Helena?
Yeah, just, I'm not sure if anyone knows, but that census data on page probably 149 or 147, the median personal income for the Wairarapa at 37,200. how old is that data, and does that personal income data include beneficiary incomes? Do we know that?
I believe it does. The data is from the census last year, so it'll be a picture in time of when that was taken.
Okay, I just think it's a figure we all need to be conscious of. That's the median income in our region, 37,000, in terms of how we go ahead and minimise costs when we can.
I don't know whether Nimet knows, but I think CoreLogic or someone bought one out and it was 56,000 just in the last few days.
I know the household income figures up around 50 or 60, but
okay.
This is the middle, essentially the middle personal income.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
but it means that there's the same number of incomes below it as above it, right? Generally speaking.
Yeah, I mean, should be the one right.
Okay, any further questions? Councillor Goodwin.
Well, I think it's per capita rate, as opposed to household.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, it's per person.
Yes, and I mean, because we use that in our liquor, in August, in the liquor policy, where it had the 2022 figure was only, was within a couple of $100 of that, so it hasn't increased in a year, I would say, because that was where that Stark one was, with South Wairarapa District Councils being 47,000. Huge difference.
And it may not be per capita, it may be per income earner.
Well, it did say per capita in the August agenda.
Per capita would include children under 16.
I suppose per capita is an interesting one, isn't it? I presume it would include everyone. Yeah, it's inclusive.
Any further questions?
Regardless, it's low. Isn't it? It's low, regardless.
Further questions?
Yes, it is.
Right, thank you very much. Somebody prepared to move that we receive the update from the Strategy, Policy and Government. Thanks, Councillor Lena. Second, Councillor Holmes. Any discussion? Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks for the report. I just wanted to note a few things to congratulate staff on. One is great to see a plan for the Better Off funding for the planting at Homebush. Really looking forward to the Panama report before Christmas, because we can make some decisions on that. And it was helpful to see the Lagoima requests in detail, because you get a feel for what people are interested in and what people are asking for. And the other things, I'd celebrate a return to variable speeds around schools. I think that's more appropriate. But great work. Thank you very much.
Any further discussion? Yes, David.
With regards to the spatial planning, Matt, I think that is a wonderful opportunity for the rural advisory group to get their heads into.
Yeah, so
I think that's a real challenge for us. And also I agree with Councillor Johnson about Homebush. And in the long term, that could well be a community, I don't know what to call it, project combined with the council. So that's just a suggestion.
Thank you, Councillor Holmes. Any further discussion? No further discussion. I'll put the recommendation. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against? Carried. Okay, now we get to page 152, the Community Activity Report. Colin?
Thank you, Bishop. I'll take the report as read and just note a few things. So obviously great to see the positive stats in the library and archive space. We're tracking nicely in terms of our KPIs, and we really want to be in that area. And also this year there is, as part of the Wellington Heritage Festival, there's a particular activity happening in the Wairarapa, which is great to see, and the archives has got 4 events happening as part of that. It's a great opportunity for us to showcase some of the heritage of our district and some of the taonga that the archive holds, both in terms of documents but also in terms of the knowledge that exists there within the staff. And in similar vein, we're in events section, as I'm sure you all know, so we've got Halloween tomorrow night, which has ended up being one of our more popular events that happen during the year, so the team are feverishly getting that all in place. So that'll be taking part in Kiwi Park, and also the haunted hospital, as it is known this year, will be in the rec centre in the hall there. And also we're just gearing up, of course, to the opening of the youth hub, which will happen on the 15th of November, which is fantastic to get to that moment, and Youth Council are really looking forward to that, and they're a big part of that opening. And it's also been great that through conversations, so One New Zealand came to us, and so through a conversation around some sponsorship, we've got what we're calling the barbecue, music playing, those sorts of things. So it's awesome to have that kind of involvement from businesses within the community who are helping us to make Youth Hub a great place. And just finally too, in the environmental services space, you had that paper early on, and just to note that the team continue to work with the community around issues around parking. A lot of that comes around safety, and that's in the report in terms of some of the conversations the teams have had there. And we've got a Dogs and Togs event happening on the 9th of November, so it's been great to get another one of those in. Traditionally we have them at the end of the summer period, but we've actually now managed to, we'll have one at the start and one at the end of the summer, so it's a great way for the community and the dog owners to have a bit of fun in that space before we get into the summer season. And the pool is used for other things. And I'll take questions.
Any questions for Corin? Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks, Corin. There's some great work in here. Just before I ask the question, really like the idea of the newcomers database as well, so that you can network with people once they're here, because when people arrive, it's like, yay, but then things can easily drift away from that, so I think that's awesome. And the summer series, well done on getting that sponsored. Just a question, on page 156, you've got about the Youth Council doing youth grants. Is that replacing what were the Civic and Youth Awards?
No, it's slightly different. So it was an initiative that came from the Youth Council around basically some seed funding for some youth initiatives. So some of the funding that we got from the Youth Council, a small amount was used to facilitate that. Councillor Nelson was on the panel as part of that. If you'd like to speak to that.
I would like to speak to that. Those four kids, Chelsea, Ellie, Ella and Danelle, I think, were just incredible. I didn't know what to expect. I turned up for the meeting at 7 o'clock, I think, and they would easily have been a good fit on our Awards and Grants Committee. Seriously, they were absolutely phenomenal, the four of them. I couldn't believe how well read they were, how much they knew, and how considered they were in their opinions. They were wonderful.
That's great. Yeah, and so just to follow on that, so it was an idea that came from within the Youth Council, and so it was great to be able to support them to actually kind of bring that vision, and then it was fantastic to have Councillor Nelson as the Chair of the Awards and Grants Committee also take part in sort of working with them to go through a process which enables them, but also has a great outcome in terms of enabling some things to happen in that space.
And Tammy as well.
Yeah, absolutely.
Councillor Johnson.
Oh, just another question. This is on there was an article in Times Age about it the other day on the parking of vehicles that don't have rego or blah, blah, blah. Whilst there's been some publicity about that, I wonder if we're going to make an extra step and maybe just notify those people first rather than their first communication with us being a ticket on the window.
I think that is the plan of Terry's, yeah.
Yeah, we're going to do some education first, and then in January there will be tickets issued.
Great. Thank you.
Councillor Lee.
Cora, I'm just interested in taking care of business initiative. Sounds like some really good outcomes there. 7 of those 15 businesses that sought council support have actually become operational. I just wondered, how long has that been going, and do you sort of track those businesses over time to see if there's a sustainable long-term outcome, or is there an intention to it?
So at this point we haven't got a thing in place to track the success of the business over time, but what the intent, so it's probably been about 6 months it's been going now. So it came from the awareness that we knew that somebody would come to council wanting to set up a business, and they didn't necessarily, and how would they, understand particular things they might need to do to actually open a business. So from consent in the building, food licensing, could be alcohol licensing, could be planning issues. So it came from within the team, and Terry was one of the people who was at the genesis of it. And so across the business, working with the technology team, we put together a way of somebody basically being able to come to council and say, I want to do this, here's my idea, and then we can come back to them and say, these are all the things that you need to do. So they don't get surprised, because we are conscious of the fact that somebody might do a whole series of things, and then they think they're ready to open, and then all of a sudden find out there's another. So the intent is to take care of business, to help them with that. And we will keep an eye on that over time, and we're always obviously looking at what goes wrong through that process as well. So if it becomes clear that there's something we can modify in that process, we will do that as well to keep on promoting people who do to do that stuff successfully and good experience with the council.
Possibly something Weeds could pick up down the track maybe, or is it?
Maybe, I guess, I mean, from it's almost from our point of view, it's a bit of it's an inward-looking thing, right? It's how do because we know these businesses need to interact with us. But yes, Weeds from the point of view of what's the success of the business going forward. But we'll always have that interest in wanting to make sure that when somebody comes to us, we can do that as seamlessly as possible and help them as efficiently as possible so they don't have any nasty surprises.
Councillor Lena, any further questions? No further questions. Somebody prepared to move that we receive the report. Move Councillor Bowyer, second Councillor Johnson. Any discussion? Councillor Bowyer.
Really pleasing to see that the Youth Hub is going to be up and running soon. It's had a troubled history from conception to completion, but I think I can speak for hopefully all of us that pleasing to finally see this come across the line. I think it will be a real asset for the youth and for the community going forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor.
Councillor Bowyer, any further discussion? If not, I'll put the recommendation that we receive the update from the community team. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. We now go to page 164, the Maori activity report. Leanne is not here, so we could take the report as read, but Kim or Karen will try and answer any questions you may have. So is there any questions to that report?
Yep.
Yes, Councillor Iwi Joe?
This is the second report that's come to council with Ahurea not present.
Yeah, she's on annual leave overseas at the moment, so just a bit of a timing issue with that. It's not ideal at all, but
Thank you, Joe. Councillor?
I just had a question, and it falls back on one of the previous presentations. I noticed there's a intended climate change forum, 29th of November at Te Rangimarie, and I just wondered whether elected members will get an invitation to that, or whether it's closed.
I'm not sure where we are in the planning, but I can certainly pass that on.
Yeah, it just looked really interesting, and it would be good to be able to attend.
Johnson, any further questions? Okay, somebody prepared to move that we receive the report. Move Councillor Johnson, seconded Councillor Tuta. Any discussion? No discussion. I'll put the report. All those in favour, please say aye.
Aye.
Against, carried. Move then to page 169 for the infrastructure and assets activity report. Matt.
Thank you.
Mayor's and Oz, or Oz and Mayor.
Ian will present.
Sounds like a comedy team.
Take the infrastructure and assets report as read. I'd just like to highlight a few things through the report. In the general update side of things, just like to highlight here, we're getting close to finishing the new project management framework that's been built around some good collaborative work between internal project staff and an external consultant. So that's looking to bring some good consistency and discipline into our projects. So that's going to be really good to have as a tool for us moving forward. The Dev Hub's also been touched on and it appears through a number of reports today. Unfortunately, it was targeted over the weekend some rock damage through windows. So I just want to reassure you that we do have some security measures coming in place, that there's going to be some external screens to protect the windows, and we've got our IT department working on a CCTV package for it, so that's going to have some preventative security measures in place. In regards to asset management work, staff officers are heavily busy in getting data migration across, so that we're sort of feeding the machine at the moment, so that it's going to be a way for us to keep on top of our the quality and the status of all our assets. Moving on to the grading report, a couple of things to highlight there. One is around the budgets. Obviously that's been covered off in previous reports as well and presentations, but it will have an impact on our works program. So Kane and the team will be looking at prioritising with the budgets that they've got. I also want to highlight this new obligation that NZTA placed on Council in regards to reporting on their traffic management the time invested in traffic management. So we're now required to report quarterly on the amount of investment we put into traffic management. And you'll see in the report that 16% of the last quarter of total costs on our roading went towards traffic management plans. And just in regards to capital improvements, getting that Kitchen Street work completed now has created that sort of extension between Kitchener and Gordon Street, which has opened that up, and so that's good to have that out of the way. In regards to utilities, just highlight the fact that your work's continuing on renewals, so we've got the meterage rates that we've accomplished, and just sort of sits in the projects space as well, but just the continuing success of what's been happening at Coburn Street, hydraulic modelling, and just the last weekend we obviously had some periods of heavy rain, so the monitoring and the work the staff went out to check, it's certainly having an impact on what's happening in the sewage systems, resulting in that stormwater egress. So that's another good positive outcome for what's happening in that space. In regards to projects, out of this, I guess, hood certification, that's currently progressing well. CAA had a site visit, the airport was received well by CAA. They had 2 inspectors on site, spent 2 days. So the grounds were well prepared, all of the security measures, everything was all up to a good standard. Senior persons interviews were conducted with our Airport Safety and Operations Manager Karen Williams, and I've completed one as well. Maz has got one this Friday to complete. So far things are on track. The runway and extension proposal that's been put to CAA, that's currently out for public consultation. So I think about 48 different parties have been approached to provide public feedback on the recent proposal that's been submitted to CAA. Again, that's progressing, but still don't have a time frame as to when we'll get a decision on it. And in regards to other works, the runway asphalting work, that's on track to start very soon, and the lighting prep work around getting some ducting and trenching and all that done at the same time to minimise the impact of runway closures will be occurring at the same time. Since the writing of this report, Lisa's made some good work on the enhancement project, so we've received the design plans through, and we'll be going out to procurement for the hangar development work. In regards to facilities and open spaces, a few things to cover off here. Just mainly highlight the fact that we'll be raising the entry fees for the Coast House Recreation Education Centre by 90 cents for adult and seniors, students and child casual swims. I just need to make a correction to the report. It's actually the 11th of November, not the 14th, that will be occurring. Also, and comms has gone out through to all of the users, and that, so that's all underway.
Do we charge dogs?
Sorry?
Do we charge dogs?
Well, the owner of the dog will be charged. I'm not sure if we're going to go down to charging the dogs.
We'll have questions at the end of
Oh,
the
sorry.
report.
Intelligent questions.
So for the dive pool, that's been closed for a lengthy period of time due to the loss of water. We've identified a workaround. We're going to be looking at introducing a standalone filtration system, so we're aiming to have that up and operational for summer, so that the dive pool will be back up and running. And the equipment that we're going to get in will be future-proof for any other future exterior development that may or may not occur at the rec centre. Majority Playground, the fencing upgrade has been completed along Cameron Crescent, so if you get a chance to drive past, see how nice and welcoming that space now looks. In regards to the cemetery project page, just that you know that we've engaged a consultant to complete a review of the Masterton Cemetery network. Has to do a site analysis, so that will feed into developing a future master plan. So they're going to be looking at, I guess, the geology of all of the cemetery sites we've got. We look at mortality rates, cultural needs, everything to look at building up some background information to contribute towards a future master plan for how we manage our cemeteries and how we develop our cemeteries. And lastly, just like to highlight the last page, which is the 17A review of the Parks and Open Spaces contract. So just to notify you that as a result of the contract being locked into 2029, under Section 17A, Section 3, because there's no way of changing the contract over the next 2 years at the least, we recommend deferring the Section 17A review through to the 27-28 financial year and lead up to the end of the contract, which will be going to market if the findings recommend it. But we're looking towards getting funding on that 26-27 annual plan, or it might be long-term plan year, to undertake that review. So just to know that that's our plan for that parks contract.
Thank you, Ian. We do questions. We will do questions now. Thanks for that very comprehensive report, Ian. That's great. Any questions? Councillor Nelson and Councillor Johnson.
Thank you. The work on Coburn Street's phenomenal, but I went to look at the website to find the project page for future comms. I can't find it. Is it something I'm overlooking?
Yeah, I'll just have, sorry.
It is on the website under the projects. I'm happy to send you a link.
Thank you. And just a comment if I may, just the work in Majorel Park is awesome. There's a huge amount of kids in that area, and it's great to see funding directed there.
Thank you, Councillor Nelson. Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Oz. Some great stuff in there. It's awesome. And some progress being made, lots of progress being made. Just a question, on page 171 it says NZTA now have a risk-based approach to temporary traffic management. What does that mean? Less cones?
So the risk-based approach to traffic management is a move away from the Masterton or a prescriptive or standardised way for traffic management is set up. So what they're saying now is we're not going to regulate prescriptive ways of setting up traffic management sites, and they're going to have to be risk-based. Submit a traffic management site based on the risk of the thing. So
more work for you.
That might mean a bit of the same. That might mean a bit less. I'm not sure. We have to work through that. But NZTA are the first road controlling authority to roll it out, and it's I think the expectation is that most councils will eventually get there as well.
So does that mean more work for council though? Because you have to assess.
At the moment, we approve traffic management plans through our traffic management control officer, and that new system will endorse them.
Okay. All right. Thank you. And just can I make a couple of comments?
Well, we have discussed. Well, okay.
Okay then. Questions. I'm a little nervous about the town hall application for demolition consent, that we're edging closer and closer to the Christmas period. Because originally it was October and now it's mid to late November. And you know, New Zealand kind of closes down over that December-January period, and I'm really worried that will creep into next year. Can we have assurance that the application will be processed before that time, so we don't end up with a lull?
I'll just refer you to Phil.
It will be. Thank you, Councillor.
And also too, because how long will it take to be considered?
So it will absolutely be lodged in November. So we have draft application for Saturday, so we've got a draft application there, which is something that some of the reports will actually be lodged for November. And once it's lodged, it'll be down to council and its processing hat to determine how long that process takes.
So
we run statutory days, we have to work within the statutory days.
So when you say that though, is there a finite time, or could it drag on, or will it be less than 3 months? Could it be 6 months? Or
if it is publicly notified, then there's a notification process. If it is, which could easily be a couple of months. So there's a month to sort of process it, a month to have a submission process, and then a period of time to hear it. Potentially there's appeals, and those appeals can go on for a excessive period of time. I don't think the crystal ball goes too much, but the application itself will be ready to lodge in a couple of weeks' time.
So there's, happy to add to that. I think that the quality of the application will be key also, because if we can produce a really high quality application, it will mean less time is required to revisit questions and potentially do additional work. So we're just trying to focus on getting that.
can you do the best case and the worst case scenario for time frame though?
As in reduce you some dates?
No, as in if it has to be heard and publicly notified and...
It could go to the Environment Court, so it could be a long time, it could be a short time, so
we can't.
yeah, we can.
We'll have a better idea when after the application's been lodged and the response from the planning department on that.
Which would be before Christmas?
We certainly intend to lodge in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
So if we say we lodge mid-November, we then step away from it, and it is in the planning department.
So then the clock starts.
Basically, okay.
Yep, so.
And my other question is, you also say that there is a possibility that the new playground might be in at Henry Lake before Christmas. How confident are you with that?
That's come from the project manager from the playground company.
Because that'd be awesome.
There are some legal issues with some of the other components, so yeah, the Lansdowne Residents Association have identified some exercise equipment that they'd like to sponsor for the space. So there's some legal time potential issues for that. So we might not have the complete project completed, but the playground component looks like it's potentially on track before Christmas.
Awesome. Can you keep us posted on that?
Okay, with Councillor Bowyer, Councillor Holmes, Councillor Nelson.
Water questions, page 173. I see we have listed 1.6 kilometres of sewer renewals. I've got two questions here. 1.6 kilometres of sewer renewals and 2.3 kilometres of water renewals. How do those figures compare with our long-term yearly average?
I trust you to ask the tricky question. I don't have that information now, but there are probably some interesting stats that we can start putting up against. Happy to come back to you on that.
Thank you very much. And also note on the page, a decision has been made to defer the largest water capex project, the Upper Plain 450mm trunk main. I look through the LTP and come up with a figure of about 4.6 million of capital expenditure. So my question is...
What period?
I did it. I just saw the first 2 years. Okay? Yeah. Just kind of went out after the 2 years. So my question is, yes, it's capital expenditure. It's line funded. There now won't be a interest costs. Have we started to work through the possible financial ramifications of will this affect anything going forward? And are we looking to then maybe allocate some of that funding possibly into our sewer network, which we know needs work?
So, to answer the first point, the annual plan or the adjustment to the annual plan will feature these changes. In addition to that, we do have a couple of new items on the annual plan, so you will be deciding, which options you want to progress with. We've not put anything major in addition to this project in the years out, because I feel there's still quite a bit of work we need to do to understand the current condition, our assets, the asset management system and collecting data. So I would expect we'd be in a position in the next LTP that we'd have the projects we'll be putting up will be solid, robust ones with high confidence.
So you would be very confident that the main sources of leak out of our system are not on our main trunk line before it starts to split off when it comes to town?
Well, certainly by the next LTP. So the things that we've got in place at the moment, the asset management system, the residential water meters, we're looking at putting in zone meters, we're building 2 hydraulic models, all of those things, and growing the maturity of the asset management system will give us high confidence that we understand what's happening with the network.
Thank you.
Right, Councillor Holmes.
Helena, I was going to ask the same question, because I'm really concerned about the sort of postponement of that project. Personally, I think there's a lot of leaks between the Kaituna inlet and where it hits town. There's also, as I've said,
a question, Councillor Holmes.
No, the question is why. Yeah, it's been answered, but
When we get to discussion,
right,
we'll make your points. Thank you. Councillor Nelson.
Yeah, just following up on the point raised by Bex. So there's a chance that the town hall won't be knocked down before October the 14th next year?
There is a chance of that, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Councillor Gould?
The 17A on the park services, is there scope for us to have a bit more discussion about that and maybe do it in 1 year rather than 2? It was quite contentious from memory when that contract was last reviewed. I don't know, about 6 years ago or something. And there just is a possibility that there's scope for us saving some money. So I'm just wondering, is it possible that we can sometime soon have a think about...
The savings would be artificial because the money that we'd invest in breaking a contract probably outweigh the investment in reviewing the contract and the savings that we might generate. It's locked into 2029 and I think the way they've been performing to date, as we've highlighted in the report, gives us some confidence that they're delivering what we're asking for. So at this stage we've got confidence in their ability to continue delivering on the contract and the costs to, I guess, put a review in place now which potentially won't have any benefit until 2029 might be a bit futile, a bit of work.
Okay. And the next query is the water main cancelled. Maybe David Prowse could help me. I think that's the 3rd or 4th time I've seen that job cancelled in my time on council.
Postponed.
Postponed, sorry. And I mean, it is our only. I do believe that in the water resilience strategy, which I've just glimpse, that it talks about minimising risk. And I think, or thought, that we have quite a high risk with just that one pipe, which its replacement keeps getting postponed. And yeah, it's a very high risk. What happens if it goes? Is there an alternative? Did we ever develop the bore that we were at $250,000? I think it was about a $250,000 cost to develop a standby alternative bore in case we lost that. Have we done that? Has that project proceeded?
No, but I'm happy to talk to the rationale behind deferring that CapEx project now. So the reason for that is based on asset management methodology. So there are very few reported leaks that are coming from that main. The only reason that it looks to be on the books is, yes, it is a critical asset, but it's the age of the asset. So the age and the condition don't necessarily align.
Yeah, that's often the case in life.
Yeah, and so you wouldn't, yeah, that's correct. But you wouldn't necessarily just go and replace an asset of that expense just because of its age without doing other due diligence on it. If that main leaks or there are breaks, that is a stock standard item, and they are items that you can buy off the shelf, and we have spares in store. So for now, I feel that we're well covered in terms of managing our risk.
As long as you can sleep at night.
There is another, sorry Councillor, there is another main that runs parallel to, so that's why we're delaying it. So we can use another main as well, the smaller mains, as well as the spares that we have.
Okay. And is there a plan to, which has long been talked about, to further that project on the alternate bore? I can't even remember where it is now, somewhere up there.
It's not something that I'm familiar with.
Some knowledge of there is an alternate bore on Te Orere Road on the left-hand side, opposite Emu Lake, that's been established. The pipe is there, the water's there, but just the distribution from that location back into the town supply and treating it was the next step in the process. So
is it about $250,000?
I don't. It's a lot of the investment.
There was, at the time, it seemed like a good idea to have an alternative. And I suppose I'm just asking that it seems to be, that possibly it could be looked at. It seems to have maybe just been overlooked. I'll sit down and read to find the next question.
Thank you. Any further question? I'd just like to follow on from what Councillor Nelson said regarding the Town Hall. I take it, Kim, though, that you're talking about October 14 next year, being, that would be the worst case scenario. If we don't get any opposition, if we don't get any appeals, whatever, we could be doing it a hell of a lot quicker than that.
Yeah, look, we have the right people on the job, the consultants who have produced the documentation that's required for the demolition consent. The steps after that essentially are that they get lodged at the council. We have a certain number of working days to be able to go back to request more information, RFIs, back to the submitter of the application. And then it goes out, I believe, to public sort of feedback or consultation as part of that. And then there's any feedback's considered through an independent hearings panel. If there is a flawed, I suppose, application, then that could be challenged. And so that may be challenged through the Environment Court or wherever else. So there are unknowns here, but I think what I can say is the application, and what I've been informed so far of, is that it's in really good shape. We've had external specialists look at it and also feed into those applications. So from our position it should be smooth sailing, however nothing ever is smooth sailing. I think what Councillor Tim might be referring to is around the election time, that date particularly. So, and yes, look, it could take time. So it's an absolute possibility. We hope it doesn't, but that also doesn't mean that we would advance and build a new town hall as soon as that town hall is demolished. We would need to come back to the council for a further discussion on that. This is simply the demolition consent.
Thank you. That's clarified that nicely. Thank you. Councillor Goodwin.
The template letter for cross connections is under legal review and expected by the end of October. Is that going to sort of kick into gear? And I suppose it also relates to the smoke testing that was done on a very little scale. Will that be sort of wound out and a bit broader to try and get this cross connection problem and leaky laterals progress?
Are you talking about specifically to the Coburn Street pilot trial, or?
No, just Masterton and urban in general. The whole lot.
Yes, yes. So it's part of a broader piece of work which does feed into looking at the high consumption that we're seeing with the water meters and.
It's that high per capita per day output, isn't it?
It's the consumption data that that was presented the other day, last week. So looking at where potential leaks are, getting the right templates in place, a sequence and a recurring cadence of site checks and so forth.
I suppose I first recall seeing papers on this in about 2012, and I'm just worried that it keeps getting pushed back and not action. So I'm asking,
Well, in regards to Coburn Street, the letters...
Not just Coburn, just the whole town. I just would like to be kept informed of progress on that. It's one of the key things that we do bother to do to improve our network, or that we can do, and it's reasonably cost effective, actually. But I do understand that council is nervous of it because it irritates some people.
Well, I don't think so. Councillor, last week at the workshop you were fully updated with the plans of what we're doing around water leaks and water meters, so...
this is wastewater.
Wastewater?
This is
not water
the smoke testing, I think, generally relates to the wastewater as opposed to the water room.
So, okay,
and it's
sorry.
a bigger and more expensive problem, and it's been kicked down the road since 2012. I remember Wes's paper on it, and council, it will upset some people when we tell them to disconnect their stormwater from their pipe or to fix their laterals. But
we actually I don't have an issue with communicating that to the community. I think this is the first time we've probably mentioned it in this report, so we're not interested in kicking the can. We don't have a proactive program in place where we actually are doing checks of every lateral, but where it's known that there is a cross connection, we will certainly be responding to that.
I would just like a bit more dialogue between us about maybe advancing this if council supports it, because especially if you've saved $4.5 million on doing the water main again, well, we've got some spare financial capacity to have a look at this issue. But it is, our wastewater output is way higher than people like Wellington, Auckland and many other places, and I think we need to try and advance it a bit faster.
Well, thank you. Councillor Goodwin. Do we have any further questions? If not, will somebody prepared to move that we receive the update from the Infrastructure and Assets team? Move Councillor Holmes, second Councillor Bowyer. Any discussion? I'll put the motion. All those in favour, please. Councillor Goodwin.
That the skate park assessment on fixing, there's some breaking up concrete plaster or something, is that something like that? Is that that's meant to cost over $1 million to fix, is it?
No, it's not that expensive to fix. It's probably, the price that came in was around about $87,000 to do the resurfacing. And there's insufficient funding this year to achieve it. We are looking at a temporary solution to remove some of the faulty paint surfacing to just try and improve user comfort and the enjoyment aspect. But there is money that was set aside in year 2 for that LTP to do some further development of that space, which we can redirect to help remediate the surfacing if necessary.
It doesn't. It's not making the place dangerous, is it?
No, it's around. It's public complaints around the surface and the user experience on the skate park. So the impact of scooters, it's not so much the skateboarding, it's the scooters that come out of the bowl and come down a lot harder than the skateboard does. That has chipped away at that surfacing, and so it's sort of a bit of a juddering effect when you ride across it.
Thank you. Thank you, Councillor Goodwin. So we have a mover, Councillor Holmes, seconded Councillor Bowyer, that we receive the update from the Infrastructure and Assets team. All those in favour, please say aye. Aye. Against, carried. Now, do we have any councillors' reports? I haven't had any given to me. Yes, Councillor Johnson.
Yeah, I've just got a quick update on Pacifica Wairarapa Trust. Just 2 things of note. One is they were fortunate to receive funding from us and Trustees Trust for an after-school homework program, which is awesome, and that's available to not just Pacifica but any teenagers. So that's started and will continue next year as well. And also that they are investigating a business case for a Pacifica Health Clinic based at the Trust. There's a real demand, and now that the funding is stopped from Tūwhata Ora for or central government, the COVID funding for medical assistance, they're looking at setting up their own clinic at Pacifica Trust, but are just working through the business case for that. That's all. Thanks.
Other councillors' reports? No more. Thank you very much. We now get to the mayoral verbal report, which I'm going to keep to just to one subject today, to keep the meeting moving along. As all of you would be aware, we had an incident in the early hours of last Saturday morning just out of Masterton, where a large group of youth were involved in antisocial behaviour at Wainawa. Now, I don't want to comment too much on the incident itself because arrests have been made and the full guts of what happened will no doubt come out in court. But I want to take this opportunity at this meeting to congratulate and thank the police on how they handled that situation. They did a magnificent job under pressure, under enormous provocation. Some of you might have seen the social media filming of that. And they brought that incident under control very quickly and without anybody being seriously hurt. And that in itself was a bit of a marvel, because if ever there was a situation which could have ended up with somebody being seriously hurt or even killed, that was it. It was serious. In conversations I've had over the last 24 hours, though, I'm pretty confident that our Police Minister, Mark Mitchell, is going to bring down some pretty tough laws regarding these sort of incidents. Laws which could include seeing infringement notices not only handed out to those actually committing the offence, the antisocial acts, but also to those on the sidelines cheering them on. I did ask Steph, who did a great job for me in and whether there was, because there are three councils, Waipa, New Plymouth and Christchurch City Council, who have introduced bylaws regarding this sort of behaviour. And Steph has given me quite a comprehensive report here, and I'm going to send it out to all councillors. But it turns out that the Land Transport Act does enable councils to make bylaws to control, restrict or prohibit cruising by specifying sections of roads and times where it is controlled, restricted or prohibited. Now it is tricky, and these councils have, I don't think any of the bylaws that I've read actually stop it completely, but there are bylaws that can be brought in, and I think from our point of view we should be doing everything we can to help the police bring these incidents to a really quick conclusion. And so I asked Steph to come up to look at these bylaws. She's done that. She sent me a report. There's a sign here from Waipa, so I'll send that on to councillors, because I think it is something that we have to act on if we can. Councillor Johnson?
Just a question on that. My understanding is that you have to designate the area though, or the specific road, is that correct?
Yes, at the moment.
Yeah, so
it looks like at the moment, yeah. Karen might.
That's the interesting part, because you know, it'd be interesting to identify at-risk roads or where we've had problems, because the last two, well, one was down the Harvey Norman way, wasn't it? But the other major ones have both been Masterton based. So, yeah. But
the feeling that the feeling I got from talking to from a government point of view is that Mark Mitchell may be looking at bringing down a more blanket.
Yeah.
So it's a bit of a watch the space in terms of what the minister will do.
Because if you target a specific road and then the people decide to use another road,
yeah,
you can't apply it.
It is open to interpretation, for sure. Anyway, I'm going to leave my. The other thing I will say that over the last couple of weeks, I've gone to meetings with the Rural Advisory Group and our Disability Advisory Group and our Climate Change Advisory Group, and really I'm just so impressed how all three groups are working. Got some great people on all three groups. We're looking at having a meeting where the three groups will actually get together. One of the things that I found interesting to come out of the Disability Action Group was that, and they're going to look at organising for us an event which they'll call a walk in our shoes, in which they're going to come along and get us councillors and staff to maybe have a first-hand experience of what it's like to live each day with being blind or deaf, or not being having negotiate a wheelchair around town. That they will actually have activities for us to put ourselves in those positions, and I think that would be really good just to do that. So, but